Does it truly matter where you plant spike? I mean, as long as it's nowhere egregious, like in the middle of nowhere where you can get spammed, it should be fine, right? We've all been taught to plant against a wall, I thought. But yet,
Taken out.
You have the punish found halfway now towards that dimension. The floor. Just RP and Ivy. Classics in hand.
huh, that's odd. Why would M8's Mini plant a spike here rather than default? In the website vstats.gg, we can see what are the most optimal spots used by Radiants. But what's the point of knowing the number 1 and number 2 most optimal spot when you don't know why that is? Why are we using it? Or when to switch between 1 and 2? It's not random, there is a reason. These are the most common plants on Haven. Notice that there are multiple per site, and we believe, before committing to a specific plant, teams followed 6 simple rules for planting. There are 6 core rules of planting. Core rules. First, we figure out who is the enemy, then how much cash they got, and then where are they. And that chooses and dictates where we plant, who plants it, and where we position ourselves afterwards. Let's imagine that you are playing, and the enemy team has a chamber and a neon, but you have a Sova and a Jet. Most of your team is KIA because you just tried a failed seaside hit, but so is theirs. Now, they have a chamber ult and Neon's being a degenerate shotgun spammer, and you have 2 Vandals. Where do you plant? This time, you go default, because then you can swiftly position yourself here. In these positions, you get a view of Tunnel and Heaven. We know that Chamber should be going Heaven because he has an Operator, and Neon should be going Tunnel because of the Judge. However, we position ourselves here because in this position, Sova gets a view of Chamber before Chamber can see him, and Jet is watching Sova's weak spot. The interaction should go like this. Chamber peeks out first to clear the areas that Neon can't handle because of the fact she's using a shotgun. Because of this, Sova gets a first shot off, being on an off angle that Chamber can't even see him in. Neon should rush to try to defeat this Sova, and Jet should get a shot off right after. If not, if she does not peek, they could both peek together. We're done with the theatrics. Let's focus on the actual topic of the video. I was just trying to engage you. That was a little bit of a hook so you would know what I'm talking about. But now let's go to the Valo plan. There's going to be 3 more other than Haven. There's going to be Pearl, Bind, and Split. You can skip ahead if that's what you're focused on. But let's just get started on this with the first plant. This is your basic plant. This is your default plant where you should always be planting pretty much. I'm putting a little red dot because it's going to matter. You plant it here when you know for a fact that they're coming from here and here. Pretty much Tunnel and Heaven. I know that sounds pretty obvious. I mean, where else are they going to come from? This matters for other maps like Pearl. It's very, very important. So I'm just going to do this for all the maps. So we know that they're coming here and here. So where do we position ourselves after we figured that out? Well, we go here. This is the most important one, so you can get an off-angle shot on the guy Heaven. If they don't come Heaven, you can just turn around and aim at the guy who's coming Tunnel. Then, next, where's the other one? The other spot that is very common is just doubling up here or having another guy here. So you can get an angle on him when the guy who is aiming at Heaven can get an angle. The other 2 very important spots are here and here because of the fact that, well, you can get a good cross. If a Neon dashes in, you can get some shots off, get him off. Get him off is crazy. But the most important part is the fact that if one of you dies, the other one can get a shot off. That's ridiculous. I might cut the fact that The next spike plant we're going to be talking about is what I call eco round plant. So when your enemies are broke and they have all sheriffs or classics and you have an outlaw and a bulldog because you just won the first round, you plant here. You plant here because you want to be as far as possible. You don't want to interact with the sheriff at close range with a bulldog because you might actually lose that. And you're definitely going to lose that if you have an outlaw and they have a sheriff. So where are the enemies coming from? The basic spot right here and right here. Maybe you could get... Oh, damn. Well. Maybe you can get a lurk going, but it doesn't really matter. If you're holding this spot right here, you have an outlaw. It's okay. But that's where you position yourself. You position yourself here. This is like the most important one because there could be 2 left and you could have an outlaw and they could have classics. You win that game. I mean, hopefully, right? The next important spot is just here again because, again, if maybe they forced a little bit, they're running stingers, they're running... We'll see. I mean, they could run an outlaw in the second round, but they'll be broke for life after that, especially if they got a lot of kills. You can get an angle on the guy Heaven, but this is just very good to get an angle on the guy to your left who's coming tunnel. And then sometimes off angles right here. I saw Dombi use Neon with a shotgun on this spot right here because they're broke. They don't have any shields. One nice little shot and it's over. Then the basic spots like here, here, and here. A lot of the positioning is very similar. What changes is where the bomb is and pretty much who's the last guy that should be alive to take down the last guy on their team. But yes, if you're running Chamber or Neon or Yoru, or if you're just crazy and disrespectful, just put yourself in front of Tunnel because you're going to be broke and have nothing. And what are a bunch of sheriffs that aren't expecting you going to do to your judge? Nothing. You'll be fine. The next spike we're going to talk about is what I call op spike. You plant it here, and well, you already know the basics, right? One guy stands here, and then two guys stand here and here. I mean, I guess that's not very basic. It just happens a lot in the other two plants, so, you know. Obviously, there's another guy here. I call this op plant because there should be a man with an op here. Every time that they planted it here, or most of the time on VCT where they planted it here, they had an op already, a Chamber, a Yoru, even sometimes a Sova. It doesn't matter. They planted it there, had their op ready, and then you just hold the angle, and then you jiggle peek it, get a shot off, it's over. Then the other two spots are important. Next to tunnel, because if a Neon slides in, you can get a shot off them, or maybe you can sacrifice your teammate, bait them, screw it, right? You want to win, solo queue, bait your teammate. But then most importantly, there's always a guy on spike. You always want to put a guy holding this angle. This is like the broken angle Haven, A site. So now we're going to move on to B site. So the next plants are on B site. Most importantly, this plant right here, this was the most done B site plant. I watched like 15 hours. I am unemployed and have no life. I watched 15 hours. My girlfriend broke up with me for me to tell you that you plant in this spot right here. And then where do you position yourself afterwards? I'm going to color this yellow because that's how I have it on my little cheat sheet over here. Here. This is the spot. If and only if you have the money to do so. If you have an outlaw, again, doing this back, if you have an outlaw, position yourself here. You have a vandal, here. Phantom, here. They smoke it off. For the now, you might be screwed. But the Phantom and a Vandal, you will be just fine. Then the other planting spot, actually, we're not done with this yet. The other two positions that your team should take are here and here. You can get some crossfires going. Most importantly, though, if it does get smoked, all three of you guys can shoot at the planting. And if you guys don't get the kill, it's because you weren't meant to win that. That's not your fault. If three people are spamming the smoke, man. But you position yourself here, and then people that are peeking out to shoot at the guy long, at window, get shotgun. That's what Dombi did. That's what Yoru, what the hell? Martine did. Phantoms and shotguns, and then the guy long with the Vandal. Vandal shoots plant. Other guys peek it out, so they have to focus on him. But then the Neon hugging the wall gets a shotgun shot on him, and now it's just one-on-one, or maybe a two-on-one, and Neon could get shot from planter, and it's a one-on-one, but time's already wasting. You're still long. You still have the advantage. This is the position. But you don't always want to get out of sight. When you see it fit that you don't want to get out of sight, maybe you guys are broke and you want to fight close range with the sheriff, the next spot is here. And the position is pretty much whatever you need it to be. A guy here, a guy here. I saw them break out a lot and move up here, hunting for kills. But if you're just trying to play time, you're trying to live, then this is what you should take. If you're an Omen or a Chamber, you move up here. But there wasn't really a strategic plan that I noticed personally. Again, I'm not a pro, but I watched a lot of hours, and all I saw often was them pushing out. So maybe get aggressive, get a little crazy, because if you're waiting for the Phantoms to walk in on your Sheriff, you might get screwed. C-Site. C-Site is probably the most crazy and overcomplicated site of all of Haven. We're going to start with this plant right here, which isn't in vstats.gg. Why is it not? It was used by every team so many times, which is probably the reason I made this video in the first place, the fact that I didn't find it. So let's color this one yellow once again. Once you plant Spike, you position yourself here. And you should expect your enemies from here. I mean, pretty obvious. Again, it will matter, I'm hoping. So You position yourself here on spike, and you can get a shot off on the guy to the left, help the guy who's watching garage, and all that. The next position that was very common was this one, and I don't have my color on, was this one. This is pretty much the same Haven spot where the Sova in the little graphic I made was holding. You can get a shot off the guy that's coming from spawn, but you can also get a shot on the guy garage, and then you need a guy watching the back of the man watching spawn. So you either put a guy here or a guy here. Usually, like, if they're coming from garage and they're dropping from window and you have like a shotgun, you can, again, Neon was doing a lot of crazy stuff. You can just hold a little tight on this angle, get a little closer, and when they walk out, you get a shot off. And then let's say you die, whatever, right? Now your enemy knows there's people coming garage, and the guy who is fighting spawn can turn around. Then the next very common spot was right here, or just this area in general. More help on the person who is fighting spawn, because then the guy on spike can tuck, and then you can get a shot off the guy who's coming from spawn, and it's just a very interesting setup, specifically when you want to fight for sight. Maybe you're broke, you only have sheriffs. You got on site because you went on A site 5 times in a row, so they 5-stack A site. You have sheriffs only, they have vandals. You do not want to position yourself long. You want to hold a spot where you can actually fight, and they have to come into you. This is what that is. This is also your default. It should be. If you have money and they have money, both vandals, let's go. This works as well, but very common, again, for when you need to just hold for sight. Why do you need to hold sight? Maybe they have a Viper ult or a Clove ult that if they get on sight and they start defusing, they will have a better advantage. If you need to hold sight, this is how you do it. The next spike we're going to talk about is a pretty common one. This is what I see pretty much every game. Here. You plant it here. This is the default. I'm going to call this one red because I've done too much yellow. Again, if you're even or you have vandals, you fight this. But this is also kind of like what you do for your save round, because you got to position yourself in very ratty situations. I saw Domby position himself right here as Neon, and then just like blasting the second that everybody that was here, which is another spot. Again, another spot that Neon fucking held. Like, this Neon is just... I understand why we hate Neon, and I might start maining her. These two spots, very ratty. You don't have money. You position yourself here with a shotgun, get a shot off, get a kill, maybe grab a vandal if they're alone. But also works for default very well. It doesn't have the same type of angle advantage as the other one, I guess, with the spike, but all that matters is that they planted it here, they positioned themselves there, also here, and here, and here, and a guy here, and then another guy here teleported up as a chamber or an omen, doesn't matter. All of these really scrambled, scrappy positions for your save round. If you're broke, maybe this is what you should be running. And if you are, well off even by, you go for the yellow spike in between that I just showed you, because you can take more long-range fights. But most importantly, all that matters is play scrappy. This is pretty much default. We all know how to play this. This is just, I have to include it because it's one of the most common plants. But default or a save round, they play like this, so they can play like rats. For the yellow, as I was mentioning earlier, maybe you want it to be a little bit more even, but again, they used it on save rounds as well. This was more of a save round in default. The next one, though, is not that at all. Let's delete everything. And this is what I'm going to call the op round. You plant it right here. This is when you have too much damn money. A guy positions themselves there with an operator. I mean, shocker. But then the other positionings were pretty interesting. A guy holds here, a guy holding here, a guy taking this position once again, because this is the most common spot. A guy in an off angle here, and a guy in an off angle here. I know that might not add up to 5. Again, this is just a lot of where they did and where they could position themselves. This is the most, it's like a heat map where they're most commonly stood. Here you can hold, if you have a lot of money, you can hold another angle here, maybe with an operator, just with a vandal, hold it here. And then you have a guy here, holding this angle here for the man in the box. This is the most common spot right here. And then another guy in an off angle. Pretty basic stuff. Just the op round. You put it here, you get a nice op off. If they're sliding in, you can get a shot there. if the guy operator is watching over this corner right here, we will be fine. This is pretty much what you do when you have too much damn money and you want to win with an operator. Or you just have a chamber ult. Maybe you can just be on default and have a chamber ult. But I have this as green plus. Now we're going to talk about Pearl. And I told you that where you plant actually matters. This is where it's the most important in my opinion. So first, let's go with a basic plant we've all done. You'll plant it here. And I'm going to call this one green. Okay, so why would you plant there? Could you tell me? Oh, it's because it's default. It's where everyone plants. No. The most common reason you plant there is because you know that there's no one right here. But let's say that there is a guy there. Why are you planting them there? You can get peeked and get shot. Pros, every single time they planted on this spot, unless they were rushed, the enemy was in this general area right here. They could genuinely still be fighting in that area, and they would plant. Usually, they clear the whole site. But this time, no. They're at war, and they plant right here. This is where you plant when the enemy is coming from their spawn. Never through art. Don't do that because you're going to get swung, and you're going to die. And then your enemy, your team, is going to think, oh shit, they're planting spike, then we must be safe. And then you get shot, and you die. So where do you position yourself when you're doing this? Well, here is a very common spot. And then, let me switch this back to a little coloring. Another angle right here, which again works because of the fact that art is vacant. There's no one art. And then very common over here. This is the I'm a spam bomb if we get fucked position, plus the support position. You can support here and here. Usually they have 3 people left. Another spot that was kind of common here was just holding this area here or moving a little bit over here and just getting an angle here if the guy art isn't there. But more importantly, this is 1, and this is 2, and this one is 3. That's what you're positioning yourself. However, what happens when they are art? Shit. They take art all the time, don't they? Usually, if you've, battered the team a little, and you know that it's going to take them a while to get to spawn, let's say they're rotating, and you're just fighting 2 dudes right here at art. The spike goes here. You want to position the spike between the enemy every time. Because if you guys are having an even arms race right here, spike's in the middle, and you guys have to fight, they can't take it. But if spike's a little too close to them, you're fucked. But if spike's behind you, all they have to do is kill you and get there. You want to just stall. We're running a stall fest right now. So where do we position ourselves when bomb is placed here? A guy here. Again, very basic. Always a guy on the spike for some reason. Shit. You get a shot off there, I guess. A guy watching spawn if you need it. Again, if they're rotating, you need a guy watching spawn. But you would more than likely have spawn control. But it doesn't mean you're going to have it forever. Another guy watching spawn here on dugout. And then a guy holding right here. Only if there's a guy here. I guess you could hold it like this. But you don't want to get double peeked. So you would want to have a guy there and a guy there. And then you have a crossfire right here. So you have the crossfire from Haven here. A guy watching dugout, and a guy watching spawn over here. Maybe you don't have all of them. Maybe you only have 3. If you only have 3, a guy should go here, and then the other guy should go here, and then maybe double up and have 2 guys in this area right here. You do not want... Maybe the next guy should go over here, actually. If you don't have a lot of people left, let's say you only have 3 people, this is how you should run it right here. Because then you can watch dugout, you can watch spawn, you won't get fucked, and then this guy can easy rotate, get a shot on the guy here, on the guy who's walking over here. You can get a shot off the guy that's from art, and then this guy can look over here. Maybe you should come up a little, but the most important aspects of this is you plant spike in this position here when they are at art and you have spawn control. You should try to get one or the other before you plant. Art control is probably the easier one of the two, but maybe you got an easy op shot on this spot right here on flowers, and then you push up, a neon pushes up, and he gets a shotgun shot on dugout. Then there's a guy art. The guy's going to back up and wait for the other 2 to walk up. And then now it's a 3v, let's say 3, retake. We have bomb here, so we can get a shot off on the sides. Here again, where your enemies are is very, very important. So let's go to this plant right here that we always do. You can only do this plant, according to VCT Pros, when all of your enemies are here. Because then a guy could be walking up through here, And you know what? You're fucked. You just got shot from that because you're planting in that position. Oh, but actually, you can't be seen from that spot. Okay, okay. How about now? You get shot. VCT pros that knew that the enemies were over here at a tower or heaven often always planted in this spot here. And when they did not know that there was someone coming from mid, they would get shot and die. Like 60% of the time. 60% is way too damn much. I was like watching back after I made the chart and I was like, oh shit, why is he planting there? There's a guy coming mid. Is my video fucked? Does it not matter? The guy died. So if you don't know if there's someone mid, or if you do know that there's no one mid because your teammates are there, plant in this position right here. But why? Where do you position yourself afterwards? Well, there was always one tunnel. Let me fix my... There's always one tunnel right here. There was one here. And one here. But again, what we always do, the classic op. Have a guy here with an op, outlaw, marshal, vandal, gun that can make the shot. Position right here. But if you don't have that, if you don't have 3 players, then probably the most important ones would be these 3. I mean, 4 players. Most important would be these 3. But this is how they position themselves. So as long as you take one of these 4 positions, you should be fine. You can be tunnel to get a shot on the guy mid. That should not be there. No, the ones dropping from heaven, get a nice shot on them. You get a spot here, so you can get a shot on the guy who's planting. You can position yourself here to get a shot on the guy planting and maybe do a crossfire with the guy behind him. And then, you know, the obvious op, because you can get a shot. That rhymed. Shit. Next, the next planting was this one right here. This is the basic one we've all done, we've all seen. And this happens when you know that they are here and here. Or you just don't have mid-control in general. You plant it there and there. And then the positions that you take are on spike, so you can take an angle on heaven, try to get on tunnel, and if you can get a guy on tunnel to watch mid, and then a guy here to watch the spike, that would be perfect. These are the 3 most common spots. These are the ones that varied a little, so these are the ones that I'm going to write down. But with this, you can get a shot, 2 shots on the guy heaven, pretty much, but the most important thing is getting the shots on the guy who's dropping onto the spike. So, let's say there's 3 heaven, no, let's say there's 1 heaven and 3 mid. You don't even want to peek that, because then you can get a shot with the guy that's here, and then you can get a shot with the guy who's here, but you can also get a shot with the guys who's here on who is ever coming from mid. So this is like anti-mid bomb. Also, maybe you're just struggling, you're getting shot a lot from heaven, you can't cross, you plant it there, and then you try to wiggle your way up. Most ideally, you would be able to maybe neon wall your way into tunnel. You need tunnel control or you're going to get screwed. Now we're on Split, my personal favorite map. So let's go to B site first because this one is the easier one of the 2. We plant the spike open here. That's just basic. Everybody's always done that. You put the spike, I'm going to call this one red, and you plant it here when you, I have it written down right here, play for heaven or play for shot at spike or holding down site, just too many options. Perfect. So the most common positions were here, 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 and here. However, you plant here when you're expecting them to come from these 2 spots. I mean, shit, where else do they come from? But what makes this very, very clean and important, you should have someone lurking, maybe this guy, should come up and try to get a shot on heaven. From heaven, I mean. Because that's why the spike is planted open, I mean. So the guy short can go and try to plant it, and you can get a shot on the guy heaven. But also, the rest of your guys still matter. You're not going to back out of sight just because, oh, I'll be lurking there in 30 seconds, and you have it open for heaven. So you still need the guy holding the bomb here, so you can get some shots on the guy's heaven. You need the guy who's holding short, a crossfire again. If a neon walks in, y'all just destroy him. And then there's the guy who's holding a little bit of an off angle here to get the shots on the people who are coming from here maybe, or just here and they just haven't peeked, so you can move your way up. And then you have the guy here who just has a direct shot on the bomb, who could be the rotating man, or this guy could just move up here if they haven't been seen and get a shot over here, because why would they expect it? This is just the most versatile spot to plant the spike. There's just too many options. You cannot guard this. This is unguardable. This is Kyrie level planting. But we've seen this planting. And for the longest time, when I first started playing, until maybe like 3 months ago, deadass, I thought, Why don't we just plant here every time? Fuck that. Like, my team isn't gonna go heaven. I'm gonna have to do it. What if we just plant it here and fight and get the kills and win the game right here? Damn, you can already tell Split is my worst map. 33% win rate on it. And 70% on Pearl. What the fuck? And I hate Pearl. Here I said only if you have to, you plant here. If we're in a 4v1 and the one is the one who's planting and you're fucking broke, you plant that shit. So you can get an extra 300 credits for your next round. You're not winning a 1v4, especially if you're planting it here. If you already have to plant it here, you are fucked. You are already getting screwed. You need to get the plant off so you can get some money and then play the next round. You're a good fucking teammate. That's what you do after you lose pistol round. You plant it here, save some damn money, get ready for the next round. So, planning on A site on split gets a little complicated. A little. You put the bomb here. This is a very common spot to see it in, only when you're expecting the enemies to come from here or here. We all know that you plant this because there's a guy here planning to spam. The next very common spot in VCT to position yourself is here, and then a guy here holding, you know, this hallway right here, screens, and then you have a guy here holding spawn, and then you have the guy obviously, you know, waiting for someone to get on spike and spamming them. You can also walk out and shoot at the guys coming from screen and main, and then this, I was gonna say this character, this player should maybe start in this position here and work his way up to here, because then if there's a man lurking heaven, you can get a nice shot off. But most importantly, because you really want to spam when they get on spike, and it doesn't really matter for you to hold that when they're not on spike. That is the most important part of both. The next very common spot is here. We've always seen this. This is the anti-heaven setup. You put the spike here because you know for a fact that the enemies are coming from here. I should have been a square, but I'm not going to fix it. So the most common spot to position yourself was here. This is the big one. Like, this is where they were all at. The other ones are a little bit more dispersed. You can move here. You can try to work your way up and fight the guy's heaven. You can hold here or here. But most importantly, you have to position yourself here to get some shots on heaven so they don't just drop and flood into sight. You don't really expect them to come from the sides because I'm hoping you've taken space. It's very important. You have to take space. But this is more of a everybody. This is the default one. They can come from any angle. But this is mostly anti-heaven. You put the spike here because you know for a fact there's a guy heaven that you can't fight. Maybe he's an operator. Maybe all of them are there. Maybe there's 3 in there and you kill 2 on site. And now there's 3 of you guys left on site. 3 on 3. You do not want the angle disadvantage of having to look up and they look down on you. You would rather them have to split up and fight these guys here, here, or accidentally peek on the guy here. But also, the fact that if they're walking out, this guy can get a shot in, and then this guy can get a shot in. Get a little crossfire going. Anti-op, anti-heaven. The next very, very common spot is right here. And at first I was confused. Why the hell would you plant there? What's the benefit? This is only if heaven has a smoke. This is very important. I mean, that's the pattern I recognized every single time. They planted here, no one on heaven could get a shot off, but they didn't own heaven. So that's a very interesting distinction. There's a guy heaven. You have a smoked off heaven. You're planting it so the guy heaven could see you, but you don't own heaven. That's where there has to be a smoke. You do not want to plant this when there's a guy heaven and they can flood down and you're going to get screwed because the second the guy touches right here, you're going to die. So where are the positions we're going to hold? We're going to hold here. We're going to hold here. We're going to hold here, a little bit of an off angle here, and then here. These are the most common spots. Because it's smoked off, and let's say you're running out of time, they're running out of time, the most common spots that they come from obviously are here and here. So this is very similar to yellow, except the fact that you know there's a guy heaven for a fact. A guy could come out, but you smoked it off. So the fact that that could happen is very unlikely. If they do come out and you know how to play the game and you smoked it off correctly, the smoke should be like this, and then when they come out, they'll be right here. And then this man better take them out. If this man doesn't take them out, this man better take them out, or screens guy. He has to die. So you're just ready for them to come from the sides. That's where you plant it at. Maybe it doesn't even matter where you plant it at in that situation. Maybe it's more of a execute type of thing. However, by planting it there, you can, it takes a little longer to get there. It's a little bit more spread. They can see where the spike is, the mental game, the positioning. That's just what they did in VCT, and that's what I'm going to replicate because maybe I don't 100% understand it, but I know that they're better than me. And if they do this and position themselves here, then that's what I'm going to be doing. So I actually just started watching back VCT stuff so I could figure out what the fuck this blue plant was. They threw a guy tunnel, but if he died, they stayed in the same position. And then the guy who is hiding in the little like screen area in the middle of sight, and then the guy behind him who's in the off angle, who is also aiming at heaven, can both swing on tunnel and have two people fighting tunnel. So that's why they do it. It's very anti-heaven because you put not anti-heaven. You put the smoke on heaven, they drop on the side, but they can't drop on the side, so they have to go through either your spawn or your main, and then screens. And then if they go through screens and they go through tunnel, you can get a nice shot in. So now moving on to bind, we're going to start with something basic that we've all done, just planting it right here, usually when there's a saged wall or a little smoke, but we plant it here because we know for a fact, I mean, I pretty much just gave you a hint, there's a guy here and guys here. You don't have control of sight, that's where you plant it. This is kind of a default I see in a lot of games, and when you plant it here, you want to position yourself here, and then a guy showers, but if it's possible, this is like the hope and prayer, someone here. If you have an Omen who's ballsy wants to TP back there, do it. This is how all VCT teams spread out. This is how they fought it. Usually they only had like 3 alive by this point, so this is the position. I mean, maybe someone could get U-Haul's control right here, get a nice shot off, but you just know for a fact they're coming from heaven or from this little side right here next to the boxes. But let's say you win your first round, and I'm going to delete everything here. The next planting spot is at the edge of sight right here, which I'm going to color blue. And this is eco round planting. You're expecting them to come from heaven. I mean, you probably already took out the guy on site if they're on eco round, right? And you position yourself here, here, and you watch lurk because they get a little weird. They get a little quirky on eco round. You position the spike here, so pretty much this guy can then rotate and get a nice shot in to whoever is defusing, since you're going to have the better weapons. You have an outlaw, you have a bulldog, you can get a nice little shot on them. This is like worst case scenario, you guys get fucked. You don't want spike being obstructed by anything. You want it right there, right in front of you. And the thing is, it's not just for him. Let's say these two die. This guy can get an angle, get a lot of shots in. This guy can move up and get a lot of shots in. It's very anti, we just got fucked and we're about to lose the round to a bunch of brokies. So if they have no shield because they couldn't buy, they are all classics, and your team got destroyed just because they're throwing, plant it a little bit invisible so they can all get a pretty good angle on it, just in case one of you guys gets fucked, I meant, sorry. So we're going to start with something basic that everybody always does, planting it right here. You plant it here because you're expecting them to come from here. Let me get a nice color in. Position, you expect them to come from here. You know for a fact that there shouldn't be anyone hookah because of the fact is you literally just came from there to get sight, I mean, not to gate sight. So then you position yourself either here. Oh shit, I'm still on the square. Here, 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 or here. This is the basic one, so there's hundreds of executes that you can take on, but these were the 3 most important spots. Usually when they're broke, you take a position like this. Maybe you have a Phantom, maybe you have a Spectre, and they have a Classic. That's just the spot. You gotta play a little weird if you want to get some kills like that. And then there's always the guy holding here, holding on the spike, and then there's the guy watching someone coming up. Mostly this is Mostly this is a transition phase. A guy who's holding here, and then they get on site, could rush over here and get a shot on spike. There's the one holding long because you have more money. This is the more money execute. And then you get the shot on this guy, and then if they're sliding in, they're getting shot from all these angles. Who's expecting the guy from here to pop up? Then the next one is a very, very common one we always see. It's this one. For this one, we have them positioned here, here, and here. This is the we want to spam their ass type shit. Like Phantom, Phantom, Phantom. We're holding this position right here. Then there's another guy up here. Again, a lot of just I want to get a spam off and hold spike like that. Maybe you just can't handle their retake, so you're just waiting for the smokes to drop to get a shot off. This is just what you do. But if you're getting absolutely plowed and you don't know what the hell you're doing, there's this really interesting one that I saw weirdly common planning in the tunnel when the enemy team absolutely destroyed the guys who were holding hookah. Let's say you were trying to run the yellow execute I just did, but you're on site right here, and the guy's hookah just died. And you know for a fact there must be people coming from spawn. Get in this tunnel, put the damn spike down, get some money off, and then try to get some kills. That's where we're running. So we know for a fact that one of the positions that we had was here, and then one was here, and then one was here. This is like, we're about to get taken over. Fuck me. But maybe you can get some kills with this. Maybe you can do this on your eco rounds. Just make it hard for them to get on spike, get some kills. Maybe you have a man with a shotgun in the tunnel and you get a shot off. But this is like last-ditch effort. We have no money and we lost hookah control. You drop this. You should always have hookah control. I mean, I'm hoping. Shit. You better not be coming from long here and at least without a smoke and getting shot from the guy hookah. That better not be happening. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I recorded from VCT. I still have to do Fracture, Lotus, Breeze, and that might be it. Yeah, that's it. The only issue is I want to go outside eventually at some point, and I wanted to have a good balanced breakfast today and still haven't cooked. So I'm going to be focusing on that in another video if this one does good. If this one flops, I'm going to jump off a bridge. So I hope you guys like this video and subscribe. Please subscribe because this took me forever.